Hi lovely people, welcome and welcome back to my channel. 2023 has been such a massive year for live music. So many of our favorite acts such as Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Drake, SZA, the Jonas Brothers, Janet Jackson, and Paramore have been out on the road touring or making appearances at various festivals. Given that, I wanted to briefly talk about the demise of performing, in which I feel like the industry is no longer cultivating the live performance and entertainment aspect of artistry as they once did. I recently went to a Beyoncé concert for her Renaissance World Tour, and seeing her perform just reaffirmed how there is an art to performing, and it is truly a craft that Beyoncé has mastered as a musician. She has been in the industry for over 25 years, and she not only continues to get better with each performance, but she looks happier with each and every show. Anyone that has ever seen a Beyoncé interview, documentary, or even watched one of her performances online can immediately realize that the woman loves to be on stage and prides herself on giving the audience their money's worth. But unfortunately, her commitment to performing has become rather obsolete, and it is now the exception, not the norm for industry standards. I was inspired to do this video when I saw a clip of the rapper Vince Staples, who made an appearance on the Joe Budden Podcast discussing artists' motives for performing, as well as the need for newer artists to have better live performances. Joe Budden posed the question of whether the growing number of festivals are ruining the longevity for some of the quote-unquote newer festival acts. Vince responded by saying that up-and-coming hip-hop festivals that don't have the time to grow to the level of popularity of their counterparts like Coachella have to pay higher fees to certain artists that have a huge following because they have to have a strong lineup in order to compete with the established festivals by bringing in the online following of a particular artist to their venue. Joe followed up by asking how does that impact an artist that is not a festival act per se. Vince replied by saying, "You have to get on the road. It is no shortcut. You have to get on the road regardless. One thing about the festivals is that you could get on the festival stage and embarrass yourself, and if that happens, it's quiet." Vince went on to say that when he went on right before the weekend at Coachella, that quote, "It is about light packaging. What are you spending on your stage design? How are you pacing out the show? Are you making the show to entertain people or boost your ego? If it's a, see this, give me this, everybody scream, hands up, how you feeling tonight? Y'all know this, don't you? This is what we do from our ego. When we create a show sometimes, it'd be like this is our engagement, and if it is not your engagement, you have to create a show that is for people in passing." I learned a lot about that from Chance. We were on the Mac Miller tour a long time ago, the way he incorporated dancing, Lauryn Hill, and intertwining things that didn't have much to do with him, but the fans understood it, and he made sure he was entertaining. By the time he got to the bigger stages, which he is still on today no matter how big he is in the public eye, he is a proven performer, unquote. Vince closed out this topic by saying, quote, "It is a growing pain to learning how to perform, especially when dudes are reclusive and spend a lot of time within art and making songs. Like you have a lot of things stylistically, like the soul-to-soul loops and samples happening right now, without necessarily any drums or heavy low end. That is never going to translate in a venue unless it's your audience. Bringing that to a salon show where everything is mixed and mastered perfectly, it gets rough out here. With just learning how to tour, you have to have bodies of work because if you keep trying to shoot a single out every 6 to 12 months, then you don't even have a 15-minute set. Especially with music now, with these 2-minute, 30-second songs, we just need more full-length projects," unquote. I think Vince spoke a lot of truth with this particular topic on the podcast, and it speaks largely to the microwave TikTok era we are in now in the music industry. It seems like the Department of Artists and Repertoire, which is A&R, is no longer a thing at record labels, where they essentially used to shelve a new artist for a year or two in order to put together a full body of work and develop their showmanship before they hit those big stages. Nowadays, labels seem to find an artist from social media and use them for a couple quick viral singles for a profit, and then rinse and repeat for the next trending artist. That is probably why labels are now finding difficulty cultivating a pop star or superstar. Executives are not willing to invest organically in the trials and possible failures of an up-and-coming act, which is another reason why we have so many studio artists now as opposed to overall entertainers who deliver both in the studio and on the stage. I saw a funny tweet that said, "The evolution from the open mic performances to arena show is gonna go crazy." I recently watched Taylor Swift's Miss Americana documentary, and it led me to reflect on a time where up-and-coming artists used to perform at their local talent shows, bars, nightclubs, amusement parks, festivals, or sporting events to gain that experience of performing in front of a live audience. Whether people think Taylor is a great live performer or not, you can't deny she put in the work early in her career to now perform in stadiums around the world, to possibly having one of, if not the biggest concert tour of all time, with her ongoing Eras tour. I remember seeing a tweet of the then 18-year-old Britney Spears going all out for her performance at a mall in promotion for her debut album. Though she was probably performing for a couple hundred people, it is evident that she was giving her all and owning the entire stage. And like that person said, you don't need a big production when you have such an incredible stage presence like Britney. I saw another tweet echoing Vince's statements that said, he's right. It's crazy how artists are allowed to walk around stage today with zero effort. We need to bring back something like Showtime at the Apollo or 106 in Park because some of these people need to be humbled. I briefly mentioned this on my Victoria Monet Jaguar 2 review video that there was a time where we had shows like American Bandstand or even Diddy's Making the Band, where aspiring artists had to show up and show out. This tweet reminded me of the time where rapper Ice Spice appeared at the 2022 Rolling Loud New York Festival, where she was heavily criticized for her lackluster performance. At the time, Ice Spice was gaining popularity for her viral hit song Munch and was brought out by the fellow New York rapper Fivio Foreign to perform her hit single. But at the time, as a newcomer, she did not showcase not one fundamental element of performing, and it showed. She was a prime example of an artist who blew up after a hit song and was being invited to perform at a large-scale hip-hop festival without even being in the industry for a full calendar year, and barely knowing how to perform adequately in front of thousands of people. I will say that over the past year, Ice has worked to put out her EP titled Like, as well as the deluxe version, and has been performing at various other festivals throughout 2023. As time has passed, I think Ice has made significant progress in terms of her breath control, rapping her entire songs live, and now relying on her backing track, as well as adding minimal doses of choreography. While she has a lot of room for improvement, it is great that she would gain that exposure and practice while she's out on the road opening up for Doja Cat on her Scarlet Tour this fall. I saw another tweet that said, the truth is, performing is a skill on its own. You can have amazing music, but that doesn't mean you can perform it well. A lot of people actually don't know how to. I agree with this user 100%. This was made clear by anyone who was either there live or saw online clips of Frank Ocean's Coachella performance, or lack thereof, or anyone who has seen performances from Lauryn Hill. These are two artists who have created undeniable, beautiful, and timeless works of art with their music, but once it comes to actually performing their work on a stage, issues just start to arise. Aside from that, this might be a controversial take, but I saw this one tweet about Drake while he's currently on his All Glory tour that said, we gotta have an honest conversation and admit that Drake makes great music, but he kinda sucks at performing. While I would not say that he sucks, I will say that for someone who has generated hits upon hits and has plenty of live performances over the course of his career, his performing still seems underdeveloped and somewhat lazy, especially in comparison to his peers such as Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, or Lil Baby. I have been able to see all three of those rappers perform live, and they make it look so easy. The way they rap every single line, their movement on the stage, and their commitment to their stage design. From clips I see of Drake, he is essentially his own hype man, instead of being the performer people came to see. He does a lot of yelling, screaming, jumping up and down and getting out of breath, and directing the microphone to the crowd to finish the lyrics to the point where it becomes excessive. From a certain standpoint, I can see if Drake is just overly excited to be on the stage, especially in this particular clip where it is his first time that he and Travis are performing their new song together. But I noticed this at his Dreamville headlining set, as well as this concert tour, that it gives very much excessively loud karaoke set, as opposed to a concert that should match the vibe of each song. Like another user said, he just yells and screams way too much at his live shows, and I don't know how he hasn't realized that it doesn't sound all that great. Like, it's hype, but it would be a much better performance if he just matched the voice, flow, cadence, and delivery he was using when he recorded the song. I do think Drake can switch up when he wants to. His Live at the Apollo shows earlier this year, where he performed some of his deep cuts and B-side songs, showcase a more toned-down side of his range as a performer. But I feel like with this tour, it emphasizes Vince Staples' point about some artists creating shows out of their ego as opposed to making it engaging or well-structured. The realities of going on tour or performing in general from a fan's perspective seems to be extremely overwhelming, which is why I understand why artists like Miley Cyrus have publicly announced that she does not want to tour anymore. In May of 2023, she told British Vogue that she prefers performing for close friends and loved ones as opposed to arena shows. Miley said, quote, "Singing for hundreds of thousands of people isn't really the thing that I love. There's no connection, there's no safety, it's also not natural. It's so isolating because if you're in front of 100,000 people, then you are alone. After the last headline arena show I did in 2014, I kind of looked at it as more of a question, and I can't. Not only can't because can't is your capability, but my desire. Do I want to live my life for anyone else's pleasure or fulfillment other than my own?" Unquote. Miley's statements left some fans disappointed that they won't get to see her perform her most recent album, Endless Summer Vacation, which resulted in Miley clarifying her statements on social media by saying, quote, "For clarity, I feel connected to my fans now more than ever. Even if I don't see them face to face every night at my concert, my fans are felt deeply in my heart. This has nothing to do with my lack of appreciation for the fans and everything to do with that I simply don't want to get ready in a locker room, which is the reality of life on the road. I just don't want to sleep on a moving bus. It isn't what's best for me right now. And if you've been following my career, you know that I always change, and the way I feel about that could too, unquote. More recently, Miley doubled down on her perspective of touring on her Used to Be Young TikTok series, which is also promotion for her newest single with the same title. Miley said in that clip that, quote, "The show's only 90 minutes, but that's your life. Touring as a cheerleader really set me up for touring. If you're performing at a level of intensity of excellence, there should be an equal amount of recovery and rest. There's a certain level of ego that has to play a part that I feel gets overused when I'm on tour, and once that switch is on, it's hard to turn it off. And when you're training your ego every single night to be active, that's the hardest switch for me to turn off. Having every day your relationship between you and other humans being subject and observer isn't healthy for me because it erases my humanity and my connection. And without my humanity and connection, I can't be a songwriter, which is my priority," unquote. Some people online chalked up her comments to being lazy or making excuses or essentially saying that she does not need the money. But I personally admire Miley for admitting this. I feel like this is what many artists feel, but are too afraid to say because they either don't want to disappoint their fans, or they know that touring is unavoidable and a large part of how they make their money. It is much better to be honest with your fans and yourself so that you aren't leading anyone on and that the fans know what they can and cannot expect. For Miley, her reasoning is understandable because, as someone stated on Reddit, she was 15 years old when she went on a 6-month, 71-show tour, all while still filming Kane, Montana. Having to work like that from a young age cannot be healthy. No wonder she doesn't have a positive relationship with touring. Hard to imagine anyone would. Someone else said, "I respect it. She probably felt weird being objectified by thousands of people." This makes me further understand Miley's comments at her Corona Capital performance in 2022 when she briefly talked about feeling anxious.
Has anyone here ever felt anxious for no reason and insecure and uncertain? Maybe because doing what I do sometimes feels like I skydive for a living.
That transparency from artists is appreciated and needed at times because I feel like if artists publicly stated their displeasure with performing, some stands and the media would be a little less critical and disappointed when their favorite artist puts on a less than stellar performance. It's why I respect when JT from the City Girls admitted that she holds back on stage because she is afraid of the potential unflattering shots people capture of artists on stage and post online. Overall, this is also why I appreciate Beyoncé's continued longevity in the industry. Like this one tweet said, "Beyoncé is showing us everything an artist can give during this tour. Stage presence, vocals, rap, choreo, live instruments, visuals, Blue Ivy, high fashion, production, interaction with the fans, and she's even flying over the stadium. Nobody can top her." Let me know in the comments what you all think of the state of live performances nowadays. What recent live shows have you attended that you have enjoyed or plan to attend? What do you think can be done to develop newer artists so that they are ready to hit the big stage? Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.